Most of us feel safest at home, especially late at night, with doors locked, lights low, and the world outside. But what happens when the danger doesn't wait to be invited in? These are three chilling stories of people who heard a knock, or worse, and discovered someone was just outside, watching, waiting. This first story belongs to a woman named Tasha, who learned that sometimes the scariest part isn't what's inside the house, it's what won't leave outside of it. Tasha lived alone in a small townhouse on the edge of Cleveland, Ohio. It was quiet, part of an older neighborhood where most people knew each other, or at least knew each other's dogs. She worked as a freelance editor, which meant late-night deadlines, noise-canceling headphones, and lots of coffee. It started on a Thursday, 1:42 a.m. She was finishing edits when she heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 dull knocks at the front door. Not loud, not panicked, just wrong. She froze. At that time of night, no one should be visiting. She stood slowly, slid off her headphones. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the fridge and the soft wind brushing the windows. Knock, knock, knock. Again. She walked slowly toward the door. Didn't turn on the porch light. Didn't speak. She looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just her dark front porch. No movement, no figure. Tasha waited. 10 minutes passed. Nothing. She locked the door tighter and returned to her desk, chalking it up to a prank or a mistake. Maybe someone had the wrong house. That night she dreamed of knocking. Soft, constant. It echoed through her dreams like a broken metronome. She woke up sweaty. The time was 3:13 a.m. The next night she stayed up again. And again it came. Knock, knock, knock. This time 2:07 a.m. She rushed to the door, this time turning on the porch light first. Still nothing. But now she was sure she saw movement just beyond the driveway. A slow shadow slipping into the bushes. She didn't call the police. What would she say? Someone knocked on her door? By the third night, it changed. No knocking, just scratching. Soft, slow, scraping, like fingernails on wood. At the back patio door, she flipped the blinds. A man was standing there, barefoot, wearing a hoodie. His face was hidden in shadow, and he was just staring, arms hanging loosely at his sides. Tasha gasped, backed away, ran to the front door, and called 911. The man didn't try to break in, didn't speak, didn't run. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. No footprints, no evidence, just her own shaken voice trying to explain what she saw. The officer said it was probably a homeless guy or someone on drugs, but Tasha had seen his eyes, deep set, black, cold. Not vacant, not wild, just wrong. She bought cameras the next morning, installed one on the porch and one on the back patio. That night, she fell asleep on the couch, exhausted. At 3:13 a.m., she woke up. TV still playing softly, phone vibrating on the table. Motion detected, backyard camera. She tapped the alert, opened the footage. The camera glitched for 0.5 seconds, then showed a tall man crouching right under it, looking up, smiling. Then it cut to static. She screamed, called the police again. This time they found footprints in the backyard. Bare feet. Deep heel impressions. Like he had been walking back and forth, circling her house. They offered to patrol the street for a few nights, suggested she stay with someone. She packed a bag and left to stay with her cousin across town. But the man wasn't done. 2 days later, her cousin got a knock at 1 a.m. He opened the door halfway. No one was there. But on the welcome mat, one black shoelace, knotted into a loop. The cousin didn't think much of it, thought it was trash. Tasha did. She hadn't told anyone this, but the man in the backyard, when she saw him under the camera, he had been playing with the shoelace. looping it in his fingers, over and over. They returned to her place after a week. She couldn't live in fear forever. But the moment she walked in, her house felt different. Colder. Still. As if it had held its breath for 7 nights. On the kitchen table, placed neatly, like a gift, was a single black shoelace. She never unlocked the front door again.
Story 2. The Whistler on the Balcony. The second story takes us to Portland, Oregon. A young man named Chris had just moved into a 3rd-floor apartment downtown. Nice view, good rent, small balcony. His only complaint? The whistling. Every night at 2 a.m., like clockwork, he'd hear it. One long, slow whistle. Almost like someone trying to get a dog's attention. At first, he thought it was just some drunk neighbor or late-night walker. But it kept happening. Same time. Same tone. One night, curious, he stepped onto his balcony. The street below was empty. No movement, no wind. Then he looked up. On the roof across the street, he saw a figure. Tall, thin, standing still, whistling. Chris waved jokingly. "All right, man, weird flex." The figure stopped whistling and waved back. But the arm bent wrong, at the elbow. Too far back, like it was mimicking him but didn't know how arms worked. Chris went back inside. But from that night forward, the whistling got louder, closer. He'd wake up with it just outside the glass door. He stopped going onto the balcony. But on the 5th night, the door was unlocked. He was sure he had locked it. He set up his phone to record. At 1:59 a.m., the screen showed nothing. At 2:01, the door shuddered. The lock twisted, and the curtain moved slightly. Then, a shadow. It was inside. But the footage glitched, just static. And the whistle through the mic turned into a voice. Slow, deep. Let me in this time. Chris moved out 2 days later. The property manager said it happens sometimes. Some tenants don't like the balcony. When asked why, he replied, "Some say it invites things." 2 people, 2 cities, 1 common thread. Something was outside. Knocking, watching, waiting. And sometimes, it finds a way inside. But the third story, it's different. Because in that one, they opened the door.
Story 3. The Third Step. This last story comes from a man named Benji, a college student from rural North Carolina. He was staying in a small rental cabin near the woods, trying to finish his thesis in peace. It was the kind of place where you could hear your own heartbeat after sundown. No neighbors, no cars, no streetlights. Just wind and woods. And the porch. A wide, creaky front porch with 3 old wooden steps. The first night was quiet, peaceful even. But by the second night, he started hearing it. Thump. Then pause. Then another thump. It came around 1:30 a.m. It wasn't loud. It wasn't fast. Just slow, deliberate pressure, like someone climbing the wooden porch steps one at a time. Step 1. Wait. Step 2. Wait. Then silence. Never the third step. Benji figured it was a raccoon or some small animal, so he stayed put. Didn't bother checking. But it happened again the next night. Same time, same pattern. Step, Pause. Step. Pause. Nothing. Then, something new. Tap. 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 At the window. Beside the front door. Not knocking. Nails. Fingertips. Gently. Carefully. As if it was testing. He crept to the door, peeked through the peephole. Nothing. But in the morning, he found 3 scratch marks across the wooden window frame. Not deep, but purposeful. The next night, he stayed up, recording audio. At 1:32 a.m., the recorder picked it up again. Step. Pause. Step. Pause. Nothing. Then, a voice. Faint. Behind the glass. Whispering, "You forgot to lock it." Benji jumped up, heart pounding, and checked the door. It was locked. He stood frozen in place until morning. By the 5th night, Benji was on edge. He texted his roommate, said he might come back early. That night, he double-checked every lock. Left every light on. But at 1:29 a.m., the lights began to flicker. Then, total silence. No wind, no bugs, no night sounds at all. Until step, pause, step, pause. He gripped a flashlight, stood facing the door. Then, 3rd step. For the first time. He swears the wood groaned louder than it ever had. Like something heavy stepped on it. The doorknob jiggled. Then a soft, slow scrape slid across the window beside it. Benji did the only thing he could. He shouted. Yelled that he was armed. That he had called the cops. Silence. The lights flicked back on. No one was there. He didn't sleep. He just sat on the floor until sunrise. The next day, he packed everything and left. When he returned to campus, he told his roommate everything. The roommate said, "Dude, that's just like the Reddit story." Benji froze. What story? His friend explained. There's an old Reddit thread from 2012. A user talked about a cabin where a thing outside climbs 2 steps, taps on the window, but never takes the 3rd step. Because when it does, that's the night it gets in. Benji laughed it off. Kind of. Until he opened his bag later that night to unpack. Right on top of his clothes, a strip of old wood. Splintered. Cracked. Like it had been ripped off something. It had a number burned into it. 3. 3 stories. 3 places. One thing in common. They didn't try to break in, didn't kick the door, didn't scream or shout. They waited. They watched. And they learned. Because when you live alone, or you're just about to fall asleep, the worst sound in the world isn't something crashing inside your home. It's a soft knock, just outside your window. If you ever hear slow footsteps on your porch late at night, don't check the peephole. Don't open the door. And whatever you do, don't wait for the 3rd step.